What's going on? Welcome into the Bills Chat halftime show. The Bills trail the Steelers by a score of 7-3. Not exactly an offensive showdown going on out here, although the Bills are having some good fortune running the ball today. James Cook already has 81 yards on 17 carries. Ray Davis, some strong runs out there, 3 carries for 25 yards. Josh Allen added 5 for 16. But the story of this game so far for the Bills is, much like a lot of their losses, turnovers. And boy, oh boy, have the 2 turnovers in this game been brutal. This first turnover came on the Bills' first drive, where they're moving down the field. They get a beautiful completion to Brandon Cooks to extend it on third down. And then all of a sudden, Josh Allen throws an inbreaker for Gabe Davis. It looks like Gabe Davis ran his route short armed the ball, whatever you want to call it, right into the chest of a Steelers defender for the interception. And then the second one, it's just this kind of year, folks. James Cook just drops the ball. It bounces off his knee while he's running. He drops it. The ball bounces into his chest, and he drops it again. So Steelers get the ball. That is their only touchdown drive of the game so far. This is a completely unserious team. Well, Kyle, I hear you on that, but the biggest issue right now is how many guys are out right now for the Bills. I don't believe this Bills team is that good when they're fully whole, but being down Deion Dawkins and Spencer Brown and holy cow, Alec Anderson, can you just not jump off sides? That would be a great start. Being down both your starting tackles, being down what I think is your best all-around receiver in Joshua Palmer, who hasn't been healthy much this year, being down Curtis Samuel for whatever that's worth, being down Dalton Kincaid, which is the real game changer. They're just running out of bodies, and they're having a hard time functioning as an offense, and you're seeing it on full display today. My daughter's in the chat. I see you too, Lily. Love you. Thank you for watching. There's some other 6-7 stuff going on in chat that I'm going to choose to ignore. East Melissa's here. I have no words, to be quite honest. It's tough because even with everybody they're missing, Dawkins, Brown, Kincaid, I just named them all, the Bills still feel like the better team. And it's not like the Steelers are fully healthy, right? They are missing their left tackle in Broderick Jones. Aaron Rodgers is playing with one hand. He can't even go under center because his left hand, it has a fracture in it, and he can't even take the snap against the hand because it's too much impact. So all their plays are in the pistol or the shotgun. So they are very limited as well. The one drive they did have that went for a touchdown was the one after the weird James Cook fumble. Michael Simmons says, who cares about injuries, man? Everyone has them. Scheme around it. Quit with the excuses. This is such a bad team. I don't feel like I was making excuses. I feel like maybe Michael's just venting to the larger collective of Bills fans. I do agree with most of that because when you look at teams like the 49ers, I always use them as an example. They went on the road this year without their starting quarterback, without their starting 2 receivers, and beat the Rams in prime time. And that's because Kyle Shanahan is an offensive-minded coach. And he schemed up enough offense for the team to be functional with Mac Jones, who's a very quality backup. I get it. But they were missing all of their playmakers, and they still went out there and won the game. What you don't see from the Bills is, A, Sean McDermott, the defensive guru, elevating less than talent. This defense has been a train wreck all year. They're playing well today so far. I think some of that has to do with the quality of competition. But where has been the elevation from McDermott? Where has been the, wow, that was a masterful defensive game plan? And then to Michael's point, I understand that you're down arguably your best receiver, definitely your best tight end. And then, you're not even playing Keon Coleman. I think he has 3 snaps out there, and you're down your 2 tackles. But the great offensive minds in the sport could still find a way to make an offense function with Josh Allen at quarterback. So that's where I'm at. And that's where I think the frustration of people like Michael, the frustration of people like East Melissa is you still have the golden goose at quarterback. Offense shouldn't look this hard in 2025. Kyle says, where is Keon Coleman? It seems like he's just a depth piece at this point in time, Kyle. I think he's been in for a handful of snaps, hasn't been targeted at all. And the reality is it feels like Keon Coleman has fallen out of favor, and I'm not sure that there's a path for him to come back this season. If they can't get him on the field today with Brandon Cooks, who's fresh off the bus and been a Buffalo Bills for a cup of coffee, then he's not going to get back in the good graces. And I don't know that Keon Coleman is really the difference between this offense being great or good, but I do feel pretty strongly that they were counting on Keon Coleman to take a second-year leap, becoming a true number one receiver, and that calculation misfired completely. And if you think about it, like, let's pretend for a second that Keon Coleman is a number one receiver. The rest of this offense probably makes sense if healthy. Then you have Kincaid, you have Shakir as a 2, you have some combination of Palmer or, I guess Cooks at this point in time, or Shavers as your 3, and you're good to go. But they 100% were relying too much on Keon Coleman, and they did not give themselves an out if he didn't develop, and there was just way too much reason to think he wasn't going to develop. Kyle says, Josh Allen has 2 fantasy points at halftime. Kyle, I have him started in 2 leagues. What a week to have Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson. I think I just saw something on my screen that Jackson Smith and Jigba has 0 points at halftime. Kendall Becker in chat. Slay Baddies 6'7" Riz, also somebody who's watching. I see you out there, Kendall. Thank you for watching. This is a must-win, says the Buffalo Buckeye. They have to find a way. I can't see this team's offense keeping pace with Joe Burrow next week, no matter how bad their defense is. Boy, oh boy, did that Bengals game next week start to look like a heavier lift after what happened on Thanksgiving, when the Bengals just went into Baltimore and thumped the Ravens. Now, some of that could just be that the Ravens have been on this decline, and I think it's just, they were getting by with close wins over teams like the Jets, but then they beat the Bears with a backup quarterback, and you're like, wait a minute. But ultimately, I probably shouldn't have said that. I agree, Lily. Ultimately, the Ravens, I think there's been a lot of flaws in this team. Really, the Bills, the Ravens, and the Chiefs were thought of to be the class of the AFC, and it's a very realistic situation that none of them make the playoffs, and that's where we're looking right now. Let's see here. Roy Collins, someone call the coroner. This offense is dead. It sure looks that way, Roy. Although, the way this game is going, the Bills need to continue to ride their running game. You're going to get less penalties in the running game. All the backs are... this is the best I've seen Ray Davis run since last season. I don't know if being demoted to kickoff returner has sparked him or what's going on. Maybe he's a bigger physical back and he just thrives more when the weather's cold. I don't know. This is the best he's looked all season. I would feed Davis, feed Cook, continue to hit them out of the backfield. You don't have the tackles to hold up to take shots downfield, and you don't have the receivers downfield to take shots with, even if you did have the tackles. So it's a situation the Bills really can't win with. I also think that Dr. Neal is asking me to address what he said earlier. I'll take a look for it in a second. I also think that this is a game that they need to unleash Josh Allen running. I don't normally like to do that in the regular season, but this feels like a game that if the Bills let it slide, could really lead to some bad things. Now, Dr. Neal, am I going to address what you said earlier? Where are you at, Mr. Dr. Neal? Here we go. Sean McDermott is the defensive coordinator pretending to be a head coach, yet he isn't even a good defensive coordinator. So I have a weird theory on that, Dr. Neal. I think he is actually a better head coach than he is a defensive coordinator. His track record as a defensive coordinator was never like some defensive mastermind. Like, you never thought of Sean McDermott when he was with the Eagles or when he was with the Panthers of Lou Anarumo. He got demoted in Philadelphia when he was there as their defensive coordinator back when LaShawn McCoy was their running back and I think Michael Vick was their quarterback. He got demoted because their defense was so bad. I do think he's a good leader of men. I do think he's a good head coach. What I don't know is, have we reached the point in his tenure, Dr. Neal, where his message is starting to wear thin, or maybe they aren't hearing his voice anymore? You do hear that where, you hear the same voice, the same pick yourself up, the same our season fell short, but we'll get him next time. Sometimes you just need a new voice in there. We'll see what else is going into chat before we get in there for the second half. Kyle says, Josh, you and Luka got to let this team have it in the podcast tonight. No other Bills media do. Luka and I will continue to be honest as we always promise to do. One thing I can't promise is that Luka will be on the podcast tonight because exciting things are happening for Luka right now. So it might just be a solo show with me, but I promise you if this game ends in frustrating fashion, I will be as honest and critical as we normally are. And I really appreciate that compliment, Kyle. It means the world to us. Lily says, I love both teams unless they're playing against each other. If they are, I don't, which team are we talking about? I'm assuming the Bills and Colts. I don't know. All right. Buffalo Buckeye. Defense is doing its job today. Rodgers ain't right with the injury. They have to capitalize. I agree. I will also say, Buffalo Buckeye, Shaq Thompson is the best linebacker on this team. End of sentence. I don't care what they're paying Terrell Bernard. I don't care what they're paying Matt Milano. I don't care how high they drafted Terrell Bernard or Dorian Williams. Shaq Thompson is the best linebacker on this team. So the Bills need to understand that and use that information going forward for the rest of the year, because whatever the paycheck says, it doesn't matter. Shaq Thompson is a leader out there. He's in the right spot, and he's faster than Terrell Bernard right now because he's been playing with an injury, in my opinion. Let's see here. My guy Brendan Coleman is in chat. What could be the spark that lights a fire? Well, the quick answer there, Brendan, is can the Bills get a turnover, right? Like the Bills have already handed the Steelers 2-1. I guess we'll call it a good interception. I think it was a bad route by Davis. And then the other one, James Cook just drops the ball. So if they can get a punch out of their own, or they can get an interception from Rodgers, he doesn't seem like he's putting the ball in harm's way too much. That can absolutely spark you. Offensively, they have been this close to breaking a long run. I felt like Ray Davis had a chance to break a long run, maybe his first or second carry. And then James Cook has felt like he's been within an eyelash of hitting a long run multiple times this game. Sometimes a play like that can spark a team, but this has the feeling, and we're not used to it too much with Josh Allen, but this has the feeling of an old school style, grinded out field position. Our punter kind of sucks game where you don't want to turn the ball over. Oops, stop doing that, Bills. You don't want to make a lot of dumb penalties. Oops, stop doing that, Bills. And you want to just be the team that has more points at the end. I do think points are going to be at a premium. I do think it was smart to kick the field goal. I don't know if they were going to go for it at the end there. Even when they lined up again, it felt like maybe they were going to just take the delay of game penalty to try to draw them off sides again. I didn't like the idea of going for it there. I think get points today. Get points and see how it goes. I'm not afraid of this Steelers team putting up a bunch of points on the Bills defense, as bad as the Bills defense has been. Palmer and Kincaid are just injured too much, could really use them today. That's the story of those guys, right, Jonas? Like, Kincaid's great when healthy, but when is that? Palmer's looked, I think, good at times. To me, he's more of an all-22 darling, where the stats don't back it up. They really don't. But when you watch all-22, you see Joshua Palmer open almost more than anybody on the team. So that's where you really have to look at him and see the context. I will let Kendall Becker get the last word in here, and it's non-Bills related. We have thrown all the popcorn on Devin. That is my son, which is a cue that I should go and figure out what's going on down there. But what's going on for us is I will be back for sure for a post-game show that'll hit Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube tomorrow morning. Hopefully the Bills win. Hopefully it is a happy post-game show, and hopefully it's the start of the Bills playoff run. Either way, I will be there. And then I will be back maybe with Luca, maybe with Stokes for the Wednesday live show. And then I'll be back next week for the halftime show against the Bengals. I will talk to you all next week on the Bills Chat halftime show.